Haha, look who's back. Hey, glad to see you here. Hey, let's get started. Today we're going to be solving inequalities by addition and subtraction. So go ahead and get your notebook out, get your pencil, and get ready to take some notes. That's the first thing you should be writing down. X plus 3 is greater than 10. A couple of things I want to mention is that an inequality, you're not going to have per se one answer. You're going to have a multiple answers, which is why when we solve inequalities, we're finding solutions and not just a solution. For example, this one we're saying that x plus 3 is going to be larger than 10. So I know a possible answer cannot be 9. It cannot be 8. It cannot be 7, 6, 5, 4. It cannot be a negative number. It has to be greater than 10, right? Keep that in mind when we're solving these. All right, so let's go. What we're going to do is we're going to solve them the same way we would solve a one-step equation, a two-step equation, and so forth. So I want you to, for this particular example, just ignore that symbol. Just ignore it. Pretend it's an equal sign and not an inequality. And I want you to go through the same steps you would as if it was a two-step equation. Okay? So in that case, I'm going to use the inverse properties, which is if it's plus 3, I'm going to do minus 3 and do that on both sides. Here it gives me 0. Now I have x being greater than 7. Okay, x. Now we're talking about the value of x being greater than 7. Okay, so that means a possible answer could be 8, 9. Or not possible answer. These are answers. Basically, 8 to infinity. They have to be greater than 7. Technically 7.1, right? So to prove that that's true, we're going to go ahead and take that 7 and we're going to plug it right back into our equation. So let's go ahead and do that now. Instead of writing this x right here, this is where I'm going to plug in that 7. So it's going to be 7 right there. And then the rest of it is just plus 3 being greater than 10. All right. So 7 plus 3 is 10 greater than 10. Is 10 greater than 10? No, 10 is not greater than 10. That is a false statement. Therefore, is 7 an answer to the solution? No, 7 is not an answer to the solution. As you can see by the statement, x has to be greater than 7. That's why this statement is false. 10 is not greater than 10 because 7 is not a solution. It has to be greater than 7. All right, a little tricky just in a statement purpose, but as far as solving it, it's the same exact process. All right, so don't let that get to you. Let's go ahead and practice another one. Here we have negative 6 being greater than or equal to n minus 5. Notice now, this time we have a bar underneath, which means equal to. So now this negative 6 has to be greater than or equal to n minus 5. So, or you can read it in reverse as well. N minus 5 has to be less than or equal to negative 6. So if it's less than, let's just think of possible answers. If n minus 5 has to be less than or equal to negative 6, well, for this whole thing can be negative 6, or it could be negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, because it has to be less than negative 6. Therefore, this number right here, the n, if I'm going to take away 5, it has to equal to negative 6. Does that make sense? Or be less than. So here we go. Let's check it out. So we're going to do the same thing. Two-step equation, actually one-step equation. So we're going to add 5 here to both sides. That becomes a 0. It becomes an n by itself. Here we have our symbol of less than or equal to, or in this side, greater than or equal to. And then we have negative 6 plus 5, which gives me negative 1. So now we're saying that negative 1 is greater than or equal to n. Negative 1 is greater than or equal to n. So n has to be less than or equal to negative 1. So let's plug it in. Let's see. We have negative 6 greater than or equal to, and instead of an n, let's plug in the negative 1 right there. There's our negative 1. And then, oops, excuse me. And then we're going to put that minus 5 here. And let's look at it. So now we have negative 6 greater than or equal to negative 6. So the statement is negative 6 greater than or equal to negative 6. Half of that statement is true. It is not greater than negative 6, but it is equal to. Therefore, I know that negative 1 is a possible solution and has to be less than or equal to negative 1, which is just right here. If I put negative 1 there and I subtract 5, I get negative 6. Makes sense. Perfect sense. All right. So if you're not understanding so much the statement, because it can be confusing, don't worry about it. The more you practice it, the more it'll start to make sense. So right now, just understand that to find a solution or possible solutions for these inequalities is the same process as solving 1- and 2-step equations, and later on multi-step equations as well. All right. Hopefully you got the hang of it. What I want you to do is focus, and on this one, I want you to use just common sense. We're not going to go through the process of finding common denominators. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Right now we have a plus 1 over 2, or half, is less than 2. So this whole value right here has to be less than 2. So let's go through our process. We're going to subtract half, and on this side we're going to subtract half. Notice I'm subtracting half, not half of 2. We're subtracting half from 2. The difference is half of 2 is 1, but half from 2 will leave me with 1.5, right? So this right here is going to be 0. Now we have a less than 1.5, or 1.5, or 3 over 2, however you want to write it, it's the same value. So our statement states that a has to be less than 1.5. It cannot equal 1.5. It has to be less than. So therefore, it could be 1.4, 1.3, 1.2, 1.1, 1, 0, negative numbers, all through infinity. All those are all possible answers to this inequality. All right? So there's not just one answer. There's an infinite amount of answers almost every single time. On all of these, there are infinite amount of answers in all of these, on all of these particular ones. Later on, when we get a little more advanced, you'll see that sometimes they're segmented. But let me not get into it. I know I get off task. All right, here we go. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and pause the video, use the skills that I've just taught you, and check these out. See if you can do them, all right? And then come back to the video and see if you got the right answer. All right, pause it. I'm assuming you're back because you got them right and you just want proof that you did it right. Hey, well, let's do it. Here we go. X minus 6 is less than or equal to 4. Let's go ahead and add 6 to both sides. Whoosh, there you go. Ooh, you know what? I forgot to tell you. When you use sound effects, you're definitely going to get it right. All right, so we got X is less than or equal to 4 plus 6, which is 10. So X is less than or equal to 10, which means 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and all the decimals in between as well. All right, all those are possible answers, or those are answers. All right, here we go. Let's do the other one. C minus 1 1/4 is greater than negative 2.5. Now I have different denominators. Now I'm going to have to get common denominators. So what I'm going to do is change this to an improper fraction. So let's do it. C minus 5 over 4 is greater than 5 over 2. And that's a negative 5 over 2. Before I can subtract them, I got to get common denominators. So if I rewrite it simply by doing C minus, not minus, I got to do the inverse. So it's plus 5 over 4 greater than negative 5 over 2 plus 5 over 4. Okay? Now, right here, this right here, the minus and the plus, this is going to cancel out. This right here, well, this right here, I cannot solve it yet. I need common denominator. So let's go ahead and multiply here by 2, multiply here by 2, and my new fraction is 10 over 4. Now remember, that one is negative, and we're going to add 5 over 4, which is going to give us, let's scroll up a bit, which is going to give us 10, well, actually, that's a negative, so we're going to subtract. It's going to give us negative 5 over 4. That's what we get on this side of the equation. So let's go ahead and throw that sign back in there, and let's go ahead and throw that C back in there. All right. So now we got C is greater than negative 5 over 4. All right. As long as my values are greater than negative 5 over 4, which is 1 1/4, negative 1 1/4, then I got it. I got answers to this. And again, they are infinite all through the infinite side. All right. So I hope that makes sense to you. I really do. So hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you got a better understanding. And I hope you're watching these before you actually go to the actual lesson. That would even make more sense. I bet you'll get it a lot faster. Hey, thank you for watching. If you got value out of this, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, all right? And I'll see you next time on Math Quest. Goodbye.